Welcome, everyone. My name is Janine Ortiz, and I am the Director of Partnership Marketing for Discover Puerto Rico. Thank you for joining us today. On today's industry update, you will hear from Discover Puerto Rico's executive leadership team as they walk you through the latest information, travel industry trends, and upcoming projects and activations. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's industry update will be translated simultaneously into Spanish. The slides used are available in Spanish on our industry portal, discoverpuertorico.com/industry, so you can download the presentation and follow along. In addition, this webinar is being recorded, and later this week, you will receive a link so you can replay at your convenience. La presentación del día de hoy tendrá subtítulos o closed captions en español. Si usted desea activar la función de subtítulos en español, oprima en el botón etiquetado Closed Caption en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Elija la opción que dice Show Subtitles para ver los subtítulos en español. Si desean ver el tracto completo de la traducción, pueden seleccionar la función que dice View Full Transcript. En este momento les aparecerá una pantalla con una pequeña encuesta. Por favor, seleccione su respuesta y déjenos saber si está utilizando o ha utilizado nuestro servicio de subtítulos o closed captions en español en nuestros seminarios web. Sé que la presentación que utilizaremos en el día de hoy está disponible en español y puede ser descargada desde nuestro portal de la industria, discoverpuertorico.com/industry. Además, el seminario web del día de hoy está siendo grabado y más tarde de esta semana recibirán un enlace para que puedan repasar el contenido a su conveniencia. Lastly, after the presentation, we will have time for a Q&A, but feel free to send your questions as we go. You can do so by using the Q&A feature, which is the bubble labeled Q&A at the bottom of your screen. During today's industry update, you will hear from our CEO, Brad Dean, our Research and Analytics Director, Alicia Valentine, our Chief Marketing Officer, Leah Chandler, our Chief Sales Officer, Ed Carey, our Director of Leisure Sales, Francisco Blanche. And now to get things started, I'll leave you all with Discover Puerto Rico CEO, Mr. Brad Dean.
Thank you, Janine, and saludos from your DMO, Discover Puerto Rico. We appreciate you investing your time to join us today as we work together to continue the extraordinary record-setting pace of our industry's economic recovery. 2021 has turned out to be a much better year than we could have anticipated when the year began. But we also know that the next few months are crucial for your success. You can be certain that our Discover Puerto Rico team remains firmly committed to doing all we can to ensure that you have a successful, profitable high season. Thankfully, Puerto Rico continues winning the war against COVID, in part due to the leadership of our governor, our health department, and you, by enforcing stringent protocols to protect the health and safety of our residents and our visitors. Our vaccination rate is one of the highest in the world, and that gives us a distinct competitive advantage compared to other destinations in the US and beyond. We are highlighting this major accomplishment every chance we get, whether meeting with travel trade media, travel advisors, meeting planners, or strategic partners. We know that Puerto Rico's success in managing the pandemic creates a sense of confidence and trust in consumers, and that creates a timely opportunity that we will continue to tout. Unfortunately, despite the progress made in managing this situation, the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, continues to use an outdated, antiquated rating system that puts Puerto Rico at a distinct disadvantage. We've had multiple conversations with CDC personnel, and we've also written President Biden and the head of the CDC requesting the federal government reconsider its policy regarding the travel health notices, which is misleading and unfair. Now, early on when the pandemic first began, we made a commitment to you, our stakeholders. We promised that despite the impact COVID would have, we would not stop promoting or selling our island. At times, this was difficult, especially when our island was not ready to receive visitors. Nevertheless, we paid very close attention to changing trends, responded proactively to industry research, and we got very creative about how to engage audiences during a pandemic. This relentless promotion of our tourism brand continues today. In recent weeks, we've been in front of numerous audiences highlighting all that Puerto Rico has to offer and emphasizing our island's unique value proposition. We were on the sales floor at IPW when the announcement was made about our nation's borders reopening. We were present and prominently featured at Brand USA's Travel Week when the new reentry guidelines were announced. And just last week, on the day when our nation's borders finally reopened to international travelers, we were on the floor at two major industry events which occurred simultaneously, IMEX and Signature. Combined, they welcomed several thousand buyers to the sales floor, many attending their first face-to-face industry event in 2 years. The list goes on and on. We know that success in this environment requires us to be present, prepared, and proactive, and to never stop selling and promoting the brand of Puerto Rico in a consistent, strategic way. And while our methods, our tactics, and our strategies may change and evolve, one thing that never changes is our unwavering commitment to do all we can to promote, protect, and improve our local tourism industry and your business. As we look to the upcoming high season and the future of our industry, I'm optimistic in spite of the challenges and uncertainty we face. I'm optimistic because I believe our value proposition exceeds that of our competitors. I'm optimistic because the airlines I speak to are bullish on our future. I'm optimistic because soon we expect to receive approval from AFAF to begin investing the federal funds the governor has identified for off-island promotion. I'm also optimistic because of our talented team at Discover Puerto Rico, who daily continue to apply their passion, their creativity, and their determination to further the mission of your DMO. And finally, I'm optimistic because of the resiliency, the strength, and that Yo no me quito spirit of the people of our island. I hope you share my optimism as together we continue to lead the great recovery of travel and tourism and work together to attain optimal success in the upcoming high season. It's now my pleasure to turn this presentation over to Alicia Valentine, our Director of Research and Analytics.
Thank you, Brad. When we last met 3 weeks ago in person, I had just received the lodging data through the end of September that showed us exceeding the highest calendar year revenues after just 9 months. That included over $964 million in both hotel and rental revenue. And while we don't yet have the final figures yet for October, the early estimates put hotel revenue at over $50 million for the month. So even before the rental revenue is accounted for, this pushes us past that $1 billion mark for the first time ever, still with 2 strong months ahead of us. And we've been able to achieve these kinds of records because of the influence of Discover Puerto Rico's marketing efforts. Our data partner at Adara is able to track the influence of our paid digital media. So by using the most advanced technology in the industry, Adara monitors when a consumer is exposed to a piece of Discover Puerto Rico's digital marketing, and then tracks them through that online and search and booking process. And year to date, there have been nearly $20 million in observed hotel purchases after exposure to Discover Puerto Rico's marketing. And so the world's leading economists in the industry at tourism economics estimate that Adara's tracking covers about 1/3 of those searches and bookings. So applying this calculation means that there's been nearly $60 million in hotel bookings just from our paid media, which is a 44% increase from the entire calendar year of 2019. And though we don't have the new October lodging numbers to share with you today, we do have exciting news in what we saw for passenger arrivals into SJU. For the 6th straight month, we saw the strongest passenger activity that we've seen in the last 15 years. But the October number exceeds all records, beating the previous high from 2007. But what makes the air arrival numbers especially exciting is the increase in passengers that are actually visitors to the island. And while we've been building back the visitor percentage of total arrivals since 2018, it's reached a record high year to date. And we've been looking at this U.S. Travel Association recovery dashboard since it debuted in July. And since that time, Puerto Rico has led the nation's recovery with gains in visitor spending over 2019. Well, in the most recent update, that looks at the September data, we've been knocked out of that top spot. One state, Mississippi, had stronger gains for the month of September than Puerto Rico. But year to date, there isn't anyone surpassing our recovery. Though we've had significant gains in visitor spending since May, This is offset from the first few months of the year before vaccines really became widely available. So though our September visitor spending was 19% above 2019, Tourism Economics estimates that for the year, this is tempered to about 2.8%. Again, this is higher visitor spending for the year than 2019, when the rest of the US is an average of 21% lower. And certainly the Delta variant had an impact on our September slip in leading the pack for the US, but it also impacted our future booking pace. This data from TravelClick looks at hotel bookings every 2 weeks from mid-September to mid-October. And as you can see, our Q4 booking pace against 2019 continued to fall over the course of the month. But in our most recent data, as of the end of October, we saw a significant jump in bookings, both for Q4 as well as into 2022. So what happened? Well, a few things. First is that the transmission of the Delta variant subsided, but also vaccine boosters started to become available. And with that, there was significant improvement in consumer sentiment around travel. And finally, Governor Pierluisi and the Convention District announced the partnership to bring Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve to Puerto Rico. And with that, bookings for the week of New Year's are 41% higher than at the same period 2 years ago. But we're not the only ones seeing these significant increases in bookings between mid to late October. Similar to our gains, Miami has seen significant pickup, not only as consumer sentiment improves, but as Brad mentioned, also the US relaxed international travel restrictions. So even with increased bookings over the past 2 weeks, Puerto Rico continues to outpace domestic destinations for recovery. Miami's hotel bookings for Q1 are 30% lower than at the same point 2 years ago, while our bookings are only 7% off what they were at that record-setting pace for Q1 before COVID ravaged the industry in March of 2020. But of course, it's not just hotels that are seeing the increases over 2019. The independent rental market continues to far outpace the demand from 2 years ago. For the remainder of Q4, rental occupancy is 62% higher than at the same point in 2019. But the disparity between Q4 and Q1 is especially evident when looking at the booking pace in this rental market, with Q1 bookings 22% lower than at the same point 2 years ago. But the consumer sentiment from destination analysts shows that much of the focus on trip planning continues to be focused on the remainder of 2021. Though 84% of consumers have travel plans, more than half of that is focused in the next 6 weeks. And this is in line with what we've seen happen to the advanced booking window throughout the pandemic. In our data from Adara, it shows that the hotel booking window by those exposed to our marketing dropped from 50.7 days in 2019 to just 36 days in 2021. So with increasing availability of vaccine boosters and now children ages 5 to 11 becoming eligible, we'll likely start to see this booking window expand, but it's not surprising that Q1 bookings are below the same period from 2 years ago, given this shortened booking window. But Discover Puerto Rico is focused on how to generate those Q1 bookings through our efforts. So I'm happy to introduce Chief Marketing Officer Leah Chandler to tell you more.
Great, thank you, Alicia. And so firstly, I know you're tired of seeing this slide, but it's important that we remind everyone we're continuing to oversee everything related to COVID-19 messaging, and there are still changes coming out that have to inform our website travel advisory, that consumer Q&A, as well as all of our MICE materials. We've recently added details surrounding requirements for cruise ship disembarkation as well, so you can find that there. Important news that's making headlines is Puerto Rico's vaccination rate, which is currently the highest in the US at 81% of the eligible population fully vaccinated and 90% of the eligible population with at least 1 dose. So we're going to continue to focus on attracting those responsible and conscientious travelers. We've made this and the News of Puerto Rico CDC classification from a level 4 to a level 3 a priority in all of our messaging, as Brad mentioned. And we've seen coverage that's been featured in Travel Weekly, The Points Guy, and Thrillist, among many, many others. And last week, Discover Puerto Rico attended IMEX, which is an international conference for meeting planners and MICE media in Las Vegas. As part of our presence at the conference, Brad delivered a great press conference titled From Surviving to Thriving, What's New Now and Next in Puerto Rico, sharing our recovery from COVID-19, including those high vaccination numbers, record-breaking hotel occupancy, and upcoming events like San Juan's 500th anniversary, and of course, Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. And as we look to increase travel from the mainland US to the island, increasing flight routes is a key step in making that happen. Frontier Airlines just launched a new flight route on November 1st from Jacksonville, Florida to San Juan, which will further connect Puerto Rico to those mainland travelers. Through pitching efforts surrounding the new frequency, we garnered about 2.2 million impressions in key regional media and travel trade publications. And you've probably noticed we've continued to update our website with San Juan 500th anniversary events, and we're going to continue to amplify those upcoming events as plans are made available to us by the city of San Juan. So continue to check that out. To showcase the beautiful and diverse architecture of the island, we recently hosted a media fam trip we had media there from Architecture Digest, Architects Newspaper, and Cultured Magazine. The journalists experienced a lot during that trip, including building tours in Old San Juan, Ponce, and San German. And as we continue to highlight all the regions of the island, we also hosted a media trip to the southeastern region for freelancers who contribute to HuffPost, Lonely Planet, and the Travel Channel, among many others. The trip featured various locations across the southeastern coast, including Humacao, Guayama, San Lorenzo, Guaynabo, and La Piedras. We also hosted a media trip to the West Coast for journalists from Philadelphia Magazine and Texas Lifestyle Magazine, which are both regional targets for the DMO, along with a freelancer who contributes to the magazine Real Simple, Business Insider, and Time Magazine, among others. The media members experienced a historic city tour in Mayaguez, an excursion to Crash Boat, and also a brewery tour. And we're closing out 2021 with one more fam trip focused on Puerto Rico's unique holiday traditions. And then we'll continue to host journalists in a very COVID-safe way in January 2022, and of course beyond. So upcoming moments and events we're going to be leveraging, you'll see, include things like romantic getaways, passport-free travel, holiday travel, of course, and where to travel in 2022. These are all being pursued proactively to garner coverage that increases awareness and consideration for the island. And as Brad mentioned, we are continuing to prioritize media plans that are going to impact this high season demand as much as possible. With booking windows around 30 to 45 days till arrival, it's imperative that we really heavy up our media investment at the end of the year. So here's a look at our traditional media flighting to show you how we're allocating that investment. It's a little bit of an eye chart, so we're happy to share this after the presentation today if you want more information. This flow chart looks at October 2021 through January of 2022, showing all of the funding sources, including CDBG-DR, CARES Act, and our core media placements as we continue to implement a very aggressive media program as we close out the end of the year. We've recently completed our first spot TV flight with CDBG-DR Tranche 2 in August and September in New York City, Baltimore, DC, and Chicago. And our OTT buy continues with an always-on approach from August to October in Atlanta, Baltimore, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, DC, Houston, NYC, and Philadelphia, as you'll see on the screen. In October, we re-entered print with a placement in Food and Wine's October issue. And all of these channels are poised to generate demand as we approach and are in high season now. Looking ahead, our OTT buy will continue through January. Additionally, we reallocated savings from CDBG-DR Tranche 1 into OTT to beef up support in the really important month of November. And we're currently live with our second spot TV flight in Houston and Atlanta, and those are new markets for us. We've also reintegrated print into the mix to give us national presence again with Food and Wine in December, and then NFR insertion that's going to drop in January. And using a funnel media approach, we're supporting the traditional awareness generation with digital consideration and then conversion tactics. So this again is a really quick look at our CDBGDR media flow chart, which demonstrates that always on strategy that we've implemented. Through January, we'll be live in SEM, social media, YouTube TrueView, Sojourn pre-roll, Basis pre-roll, and native content distribution, and of course, TripAdvisor display. Each of these placements will be used to drive consumers further down the conversion funnel into booking those trips to Puerto Rico. And as we continue to see optimism in the meetings industry with more live meetings being booked, we're launching a new meetings ad campaign this month to continue to increase awareness of Puerto Rico as a meetings destination, engage with those meeting planners, and then deliver leads to our team and also to our partners. We'll continue to target key decision makers in the segments of corporate and association, and we're adding additional placements to target pharma, medical, technology, insurance, and incentive sectors, as those segments show a lot of great potential. And this is a quick look at our geographic targeting strategy. We base this strategy on where meeting planners are concentrated, available airlift is considered, and where our sales team is deployed is also a part of that mix. Tomorrow, we'll be featured as a brand sponsor at the second annual Skift Aviation Forum during a session titled Bridging Destinations and Airlines. As the industry looks optimistically to a full recovery, this event will provide an important platform for us to engage and promote our destination to the aviation industry's most dynamic leaders. And then December 8th through 10th, Conference Direct will host their prestigious CEO Summit at the Royal Sonesta. We're supporting this event with planning and marketing to encourage these CEOs to bring their organization's meetings to our island in the future. A highlight is a special social media scavenger hunt that the CEOs will participate in while touring the destination. And finally, our team will have a significant presence at two important upcoming industry shows, IAEE Expo and PCMA Convening Leaders. We'll be featuring a coffee activation and several marketing initiatives at these important events. And for more on sales, I'm happy to turn the presentation over to Ed Carey, our Chief Sales Officer.
Great, thanks so much, Leah, and good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. In addition to these substantial activations at the most important trade shows, we continue to push for on-island activity, as we know that's what really helps drive conversion. And so we've operated nearly 30 site inspections, tours, and pre-planning tours between October and November, showcasing our hotels to planners and buyers within the healthcare, pharma, financial, sports, incentive groups, and others. And we've produced several significant events in the last several weeks, both on island and on the mainland. And we sincerely appreciate all of the support from you, our stakeholders. In addition to the U.S. Travel Board meeting, Teneo Hospitality Group, the Caribbean Volleyball Association, and others, in total, we've hosted over 60 meeting planners since the beginning of July. And we're also going after significant industry events that will expose the island to hundreds of planners and buyers to continue and raise the awareness of Puerto Rico as a world-class meetings destination. Events like the Conference Direct CEO Summit that Leah mentioned earlier, the Meetings Made Easy FAM, and the Connect Marketplace are promoted across social media platforms, strategic partnerships, e-blasts, and even some traditional advertising for months or even years in advance. And we are currently proposing Puerto Rico as the destination for many important and widely recognized events as the Incentive Research Foundation Summit and the American Society of Travel Advisors and the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association and others. And of course, Leah also mentioned IMEX, which we just attended last week with 15 partners at our booth. And between the partners and Discover Puerto Rico, we met with over 600 meeting planners. including large group presentations. And we also held a special dinner for 12 planners that were specifically looking to book Puerto Rico. So between now and the end of the year, we're attending several important sports-focused trade shows, along with incentive, medical, and a convention center citywide focus show with the International Association of Exhibitions and Events. That annual exposition where we will be sponsoring a hosted buyer's lounge along with the team at Discover the Palm Beach. So in total, we will be at 9 trade shows, host 2 special events with the Site Florida and Caribbean Top Golf event and the Convention Center Expert Planners and Stakeholders virtual webinar. And lastly, our last MICE FAM of the year on Island will be held from December 9th through 11th with approximately 25 meeting planners currently scheduled to attend. Now, there's no doubt that the Delta variant and the CDC level 4 designation that Brad referred to earlier impacted lead volume, particularly in the months of September and October, as we compare to 2019. However, the first half of November seems to have recovered nicely. And overall, the number of requested room nights are still 22% of 2019 numbers for the last 90 days. And in terms of converted definite business, the slowdown we witnessed in September and October affected our fiscal year-to-date numbers, though we saw a stronger conversion. And although the number of new leads from July 1 through November 13th of this year shows that the number of leads is flat, we're seeing larger groups sourcing the island. And this is partly because we're able to attract larger blocks with our efforts to attract citywide business, as well as the larger group inventory at hotels like El Conquistador coming into the marketplace. And lastly, our active sales pipeline remains very strong with roughly $371 million in economic impact from the potential business we can close. And we continue to work with our partner hotels to sharpen our offers and create a sense of urgency to close more of this business. So with that, I'll turn it over to Francisco Blanch to discuss the latest leisure trends.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ed. After a weak September, October showed signs of continued recovery, while November strengthened, starting the month above October figures. December continues to build strongly, and the spike we're seeing in November is a great sign that segments so far dormant may have reactivated. We will see this fourth quarter considerably improve and hopefully matching third quarter totals and lead the way to a more normal first quarter in 2022. We've been very busy during October. November is also very active as events cautiously return to in-person activities, while participants remain cautious and attendance grows gradually. We just returned from Brand USA Travel Week in London, which was a great gathering of the top European accounts. They anticipate traffic to United States destinations will surpass previous years due to pent-up demand. Those wholesalers are eager to meet with local Puerto Rico DMCs and receptive companies and implement packages, fly and drive programs, and other itineraries that will expand the perception of Puerto Rico beyond the urban and resort areas, focusing more on our ecotourism and seeking accommodations in other lodging options throughout the destination. We had a webinar to cover while Johanna was in Chicago and I was in London, and we had to resort to recording the presentation, which aired while we were both out of town. And as you can see, our culinary and mixology webinar in this Live, Love, Eat event was a total success, as is reflected in the testimonials we received from the advisors. Now, as part of the promotion of our Puerto Rico Travel Expert course in Spanish, we've been enticing traffic to the courses page via these banners in social media in Latin America, in key markets like Mexico and Colombia. Now, this quarter, we grew combined enrollment and graduations by almost 3,000 advisors, reaching 21,433 of them and graduating 809 experts. At the same time, we're launching the loyalty component that has been built into it, which will allow us a more dynamic implementation of incentives and promotions to help our graduates focus on selling the destination while they earn points that can be redeemed for monetary rewards and prizes, as well as help create synergies for those stakeholders willing to provide those incentives. This is something that extends throughout the entire destination, and it gives all the businesses the same opportunity to participate and be featured. As Leah mentioned before, we hosted the Frontier FAM for the inaugural Jacksonville-San Juan news service by Frontier Airlines, and our public relations team will host the upcoming Influencers Iberia FAM. International wholesalers are interested in booking small inns and paradores, as well as vacation rentals. We are increasing partnerships in all these foreign markets as borders reopen this month. We continue targeting the travel advisors as their tenacity through the pandemic has proven invaluable. They have taken the lead in sales. We have relied heavily on their resilience and willingness to learn more about Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, we continue steering companies to target and engage the right booking channels and tools that will secure more traffic to their reservations. One of them being the local DMCs and receptives, whose prompt response is key to continue to build that momentum as the tour operators and wholesalers are building those packages to sell Puerto Rico. We will have a November, as I said, as busy as October. We're building activities into the first 2 weeks of December and into the first quarter of 2022. So we're going to be very busy. Thank you for your attention today. Now I leave you with Janet Ortiz, Marketing Partnerships Director for Discover Puerto Rico.
Thank you so much, Francisco, and the executive leadership team for providing such great information and insights. At this time, we don't have any questions in the Q&A box. So I'll just let you know that if you have not registered to our industry portal yet, or to receive our weekly newsletter and weekly research dashboard, please head over to discoverpuertorico.com/industry to do so. And if you need assistance with the sign-up process, please reach out to us and our digital team will assist you. And please save the date for Discover Puerto Rico's next industry update, which will be on December 15th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. The invitation will be hitting your inbox soon. So once again, thank you and see you soon. Hasta pronto.